The Sunday morning service at House of Mercy Chapel was always full. The choir stood beautifully on the altar dressed in shining white robes. Among them were 4 young women everyone admired: Grace, Vanessa, Debbie, and Anita. They were known as the Heaven Sisters. Their voices melted hearts. Old women blessed them. Young girls wanted to become like them. Even Pastor Jeremiah proudly called them daughters of light. But nobody knew what happened after midnight. Because once church activities ended, the 4 girls transformed into completely different people. At night, they worked secretly in expensive clubs across Lagos. Rich politicians, businessmen, Yahoo boys, married men, those were their customers. Grace was the leader. Cold, sharp, beautiful. She believed poverty was the real sin. Every night she reminded the others, church won't pay your rent. Holiness won't feed your family. The others laughed nervously whenever she said it. But deep down, they knew she was right. Vanessa came from a poor home in Ajagunal. Her sick mother needed constant medication. Debbie was sponsoring her younger siblings in school. Anita only joined because her university fees became impossible to pay. They hated the life, but the money was addictive. In one night, they could earn more than some workers made in months. And every Sunday, they returned to church pretending to be innocent. One evening after choir rehearsal, Pastor Jeremiah called the girls into his office. The pastor was famous across Nigeria. Powerful, respected, wealthy. People claimed miracles happened wherever he prayed. Inside the office, he smiled warmly. "My daughters," he said softly, "God is about to lift this choir internationally." The girls clapped excitedly. But Grace noticed something strange. The pastor kept staring directly at her. Not spiritually, not fatherly. Something felt wrong. That same night, Grace received a message from an unknown number. "VIP customer tonight. Big money. Eco Hotel. Room 909. Grace smiled. "Girls, this one is heavy," she said. The others quickly got ready. Designer dresses, heavy makeup, expensive perfume. By midnight, they arrived at the luxury hotel. The manager escorted Grace upstairs alone. "Customer requested only you," he whispered. Grace entered room 909 confidently. But the moment the man stepped out of the bathroom, her blood froze. It was Pastor Jeremiah. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The pastor himself looked shocked. Then slowly, his face hardened. "You," he muttered. Grace stepped backward in disbelief. "Pastor," the powerful preacher quickly locked the door. "What exactly are you doing here?" he asked angrily. Grace laughed bitterly. "No, Pastor. The real question is, what are you doing here?" Silence filled the room. The pastor sat down heavily. Then he sighed. "I can explain." But Grace suddenly began recording with her phone. The pastor panicked instantly. "Stop that. You preach holiness every Sunday," Grace snapped. "Meanwhile, you secretly sleep with prostitutes." Pastor Jeremiah's eyes darkened. "You have no idea how this world works." Grace expected shame. Instead, the pastor began laughing. Deep, slow, dangerous laughter. "You think church is clean?" he asked quietly. "You think politicians, pastors, celebrities are different?" He leaned closer. "This city survives on secrets." Grace suddenly felt uncomfortable. The pastor's calmness frightened her more than anger. Then he said something that changed everything. "You girls are not the first choir members doing this." Grace's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" The pastor smiled sadly. "For years, powerful men have used this church to find girls." Suddenly, Grace realized why rich men always seemed attracted to choir members. Why expensive gifts appeared mysteriously. Why some girls disappeared from church quietly. Why nobody ever questioned anything. The church itself was connected. Meanwhile, downstairs, Anita became worried. Grace has been upstairs too long. Vanessa tried calling her repeatedly. No answer. Debbie whispered nervously, "Something is wrong." Back upstairs, Pastor Jeremiah offered Grace a deal. "I can make you rich beyond imagination," he said calmly. "Houses, cars, connections. Grace stared at him silently. All you have to do is keep quiet and continue working for us. Us. That word terrified her. This was bigger than one pastor. Grace refused immediately. You're evil. Pastor Jeremiah smiled again. Yet you came here willingly tonight. That statement pierced her deeply. For the first time, Grace saw herself clearly, not as a victim, but as someone slowly losing her soul. Suddenly her phone buzzed. A message from Anita. Are you okay? Grace quickly replied. Leave now. Don't wait for me. But it was too late. 3 armed men entered the hotel corridor. Pastor Jeremiah had already made a call. Downstairs, Vanessa noticed suspicious men approaching. Run, she screamed. The girls rushed toward the exit. Chaos erupted. Guests shouted. Security guards panicked. Anita fell while running. One of the men grabbed her arm violently. Upstairs, Grace heard the commotion. She pushed Pastor Jeremiah away and ran toward the door. But the pastor grabbed her wrist. You expose me and nobody will ever find your body. Grace slapped him hard, then escaped into the corridor. The 4 girls eventually reunited outside the hotel, trembling with fear. Rain poured heavily across Lego streets. Nobody spoke for several minutes. Finally, Anita broke down crying. We need to stop this life. Debbie nodded silently. Vanessa looked terrified. But Grace remained unusually quiet, because deep inside, she knew the pastor would never let them go easily. The next Sunday, church service continued normally. The choir sang beautifully. Pastor Jeremiah preached powerfully about righteousness. The congregation shouted, Amen. But Grace watched him differently now. Every sermon sounded fake. Every smile looked dangerous. After service, Grace secretly met a journalist named Daniel. She handed him recordings, messages, and hotel evidence. Daniel's eyes widened. If this is true, he whispered, this will destroy many powerful people. Grace nodded. I know. 3 days later, Nigeria exploded with shocking headlines. Famous pastor linked to secret prostitution ring. Videos leaked online. Hotel record surfaced. Former choir girls began speaking anonymously. The church went into chaos. Members cried openly. Some refused to believe it. Others became violent. Pastor Jeremiah denied everything publicly, but investigations had already started. Then suddenly,